Today I'll show you how to make the body of this cute little googly eye bag. Isn't it adorable? It's watching you. We'll start off with some basic pattern drafting. Using a thing of newspaper and a pencil and a ruler, I measured out an 11 by 14 rectangle and a 4 by 20 rectangle. Your measurements may change depending on what size bag you would like to make. Once you've created a basic pattern, you're going to want to cut out 2 lining, 2 flannel, 4 of your main fabric using the 11 by 14 rectangle. Then using the 4 by 20 rectangle, you are going to cut out 1 long strip from your outside fabric. Once all the pieces are cut out for the body of the bag, it's time to mark where you would like to quilt for the front and the back of your bag. To do this, you're going to take your flannel and mark on the wrong side of the flannel using a washout marker. I find that a crisscross diagonal line about 1 inch apart works for the best effect. However, you can do whatever you feel most comfortable with or causes the best effect for your bag. Once you are done drawing the lines in the back of the flannel, it's time to layer. You're going to want a blank side of the flannel facing the wrong side of your fabric, just like this. For basic quilting, you're going to want an average size stitch width, your needle centered, and a straight stitch. Once you have your setting, just sew along the lines. After the quilting, it's time to focus on making the tabs. Take the long rectangle that we cut out and fold it in half. Then take the raw edges and fold them towards this half point that you just made. Iron them into place, and then fold this entire piece in half once again so the raw edges do not show. Then take this, sew 2 lines down each edge, and you have your tabs almost completely made. Now heading back to the body of the bag, you're going to want to find the center point of your bag. This might not be the best place to place the eye, a little higher, a little lower, given the fact that you will be removing some for the edges on the top, as well as the boxing done at the bottom. Now for those fancy artistic people who can do this, you can use the diameter of your eye and figure out where you want to place it. However, due to not being very good at that, I just took my eye and traced it on to whereabout I wanted it on my pattern. Once you have these marks done, it's time to mark where you're going to be sewing. I figured roughly 1/4 of an inch to 1 inch would probably work best to cover up any raw edges you have on your eye. I believe I went with 1/4 of an inch at this part. Once this is done, you're going to want to take another piece of your outside fabric and lay it underneath your quilting piece. However, this time you are going to want the right side of your fabric facing the quilted side. Once this is done, you are going to sew around the inner circle. At this point, you are on one of the most difficult parts of this bag. You have to trim out the inside of the circle without cutting any of the stitching. This will prove to be very difficult. However, when you're done, you're going to take the fabric and turn it inside out, giving you a beautifully finished inside circle within your quilting fabric. That'll fit just perfectly around your eye. Iron it smooth, and now we have to figure out how to get this eye in here. Luckily, we have a 4th layer of outside fabric. Trace the inner circle onto the fabric that you have for the outside, and then glue the eye into place. If you want, you could hand sew it if you have one with holes around the edges. However, I find glue to be the best option here. Set your needle all the way to the far side, and basically you're going to want to take your quilted layer and sew it down to your eye layer. Do this a couple times, and if you can manage to get it to be a good circle, good for you, but I kinda sucked at that. You're now done with the front of your bag. You're going to take this and stitch it down to the back of your bag, which is the other piece of quilted fabric. You're going to stitch along the long side and 2 of the short sides. You're also going to do this with your lining, leaving roughly a 5-inch gap on the bottom of your lining piece. Set those to the side for now. Now we're going to focus on making your tabs. Take the long piece of fabric that you had that you did 2 stitches on, fold it in half, and then fold it in half again. Cut each of the folds, and you should have 4 even pieces of fabric. Take these 4 pieces of fabric and thread them through loops, pinning them down so the loops stay in the center of the fabric. Then you're going to take these, find your outside fabric, measure 3 inches within, and then pin these into place. You're going to want the hoops facing down into the bag of the right side and the raw edges facing out. This is so when you sew them into place, they will stick out of your bag and make it so you can attach the handle to them later on. At this point, you are going to want to box your corners. For those of you who do not know what boxing corners is, it's when you take 2 separate seams from sides of your bag and line them up so the corners stick out like ears. Once this is done, Pin them into place and sew about an inch away from the corner of your bag. This will give your bag a box shape like this. Once you've done this to the outside of the bag, you're going to want to repeat it with the inside lining as well. The two of them should look something like this. Now you're going to want to take your lining and place it over the outside of your bag, with the right side of the lining facing the right side of the bag. Line up all the seams and pin them into place. Then you're going to stitch around the edges. At this point it should look something like this, Disaster. I like to snip off the corners of my lining at this point simply because it makes it easier to turn inside out. However, this step is completely optional. The next big step to worry about is turning the bag inside out. Remember that 5-inch gap you left at the bottom of your lining? Well, now you're going to pull everything through that 5-inch gap. You're going to want to be very careful at this point not to mess with your eye. In fact, you might want to expand the hole a little. If you're doing that, just snip the stitches and hope to God that you don't get any of the fabric. Pull out the pins holding the tabs, and in the end it should look something like this. Very carefully press down the fabric along the edges, stitch down if you would like, and then hand stitch the bottom of the lining together. Once done, you are done with the body of your bag. Just add a handle and you are ready to rock this look.